Welcome to Singapore Property Talk Law. I'm Serene,
And I'm Damien.
and today we're going to be diving into property prices here in Singapore.
That's right, Serene.
You've shared some really interesting recent data, and our mission is to unpack what it all means for you,
Exactly.
whether you're in the market for an HDB or you're looking at private condos.
Absolutely.
So, Damien,
Yes.
the big picture is that we're seeing some early signs that the crazy growth in property prices might be slowing down a little bit in this first quarter of 2025.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. And this is across both public and private housing.
Right.
And this is happening against a backdrop of, global economic uncertainty.
Right.
So it's a very interesting time.
Absolutely.
So maybe we can start by looking at the HDB resale market.
Okay, so HDB resale prices, what are we seeing there?
Well, the flash estimates for the HDB resale price index, the RPI, show an increase of 1.5% in the first quarter of 2025.
Okay.
Now, that's still an increase, right?
Mhm.
But it's a noticeable drop from the 2.6% growth we saw in the last 3 months of 2024.
Okay, so a significant slowdown.
Yeah. And perhaps more importantly, it's the slowest rate of growth in the last 5 quarters.
So what's driving this moderation in the HDB resale market?
Well, there's a couple of things at play.
Okay.
First, there's the government's effort to increase the supply of new build-to-order or BTO flats.
Right.
When there are more new flats available, it takes some of the pressure off resale prices.
Makes sense.
And second, we had a record-breaking sale of Balanced Flats Exercise, SBF, in February 2025,
Right.
offering around 5,500 flats.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, is a huge number.
So more choices for buyers then.
Yeah, and that means less competition, which can help to moderate price increases.
Okay, so what about the private housing sector? Are we seeing a similar trend there?
Yes, we are. The Flash Private Residential Price Index, the PPI, showed a smaller increase of just 0.6% in the first quarter of 2025, compared to the 2.3% in the previous quarter.
So it sounds like the momentum is easing a bit.
Yes, across all segments of the private market.
Now it's not just prices that are changing, right? I recall there was something about transaction volumes as well.
That's right. The total volume of sales transactions actually declined by 15% on a quarter-on-quarter basis.
So perhaps buyers are becoming a bit more cautious?
Yeah, perhaps due to the economic uncertainty,
Right.
or maybe they're just waiting to see what happens with prices.
Okay, so now this is where it gets interesting because the government is playing a role in all this, right?
Absolutely. They've been very proactive in trying to manage the supply of housing,
Yeah.
particularly in the public market.
Right. So what kind of initiatives are we talking about here?
Well, for starters, they've announced plans to launch over 50,000 BTO flats between 2025 and 2027.
Wow, that's a lot of flats.
Yeah. And about 12,000 of these will be shorter waiting time flats,
Which means?
which means people won't have to wait as long to move into their new homes.
Right. So that's a big help for young families who need housing sooner rather than later.
Exactly.
Now, what about sale of balance flats? Are there any more of those coming up?
Yes. There's another SBF exercise plan for July 2025, with around 3,000 flats on offer.
Okay.
So combined with the February exercise, the total supply for this year will be around 8,500 flats.
So the largest since 2017.
That's right.
Wow.
The government is really stepping up to provide more affordable housing options.
Okay, so we also mentioned that there was a temporary tightness in the HDB resale market.
Yes.
Can you explain why that is?
Sure. Well, in recent years, fewer flats have been reaching their minimum occupation period, or MOP.
And just to remind our listeners, the MOP is?
The MOP is the period of time that you have to live in your HDB flat before you can sell it.
Right, 5 years.
Exactly. And this was partly due to construction delays caused by the COVID-19 pandemic.
Ah, so that makes sense.
Yeah, so fewer flats reaching MOP means less supply in the resale market.
Right.
But the good news is that this is expected to change.
Okay, how so?
Well, the number of flats reaching MOP is projected to increase significantly in the coming years.
Okay, so give us some numbers.
About 8,000 in 2025, 13,500 in 2026, and a whopping 19,500 in 2028.
So that's a lot more flats coming onto the resale market.
Yeah, and that should help to ease the current supply constraints.
Now let's switch gears to the private housing market.
Okay.
What has the government been doing there in terms of supply?
Well, they've been using the Government Land Sales Program, or GLS, to increase the supply of private housing.
Okay.
For the first half of 2025, the supply was increased to around 8,500 units,
Okay.
with 5,000 units under the confirmed list.
Okay, and what does that mean for the average buyer?
Well, it means there are more options available,
Right.
and that can help to keep prices in check.
Now, is this increase in land supply just a temporary measure?
No, The government has indicated that they plan to sustain this higher level of supply in the second half of 2025.
Okay.
And importantly, this includes more executive condominium or EC units.
So ECs are going to be a big focus this year.
That's right. The total supply is projected to reach around 2,000 units this year, which is nearly double the average from recent years.
Wow, so that's a lot of ECs coming onto the market.
Yeah, and that's good news for buyers who are looking for more affordable, private housing options.
So with all of these changes happening, what has Minister Desmond Lee said about the property market?
Well, he attributed the slower price growth to the increased supply and the drop in transaction volumes.
Makes sense.
And he emphasized that the government is committed to maintaining a strong and steady supply of housing to meet the needs of Singaporeans.
Right, and that should help to further stabilize the market.
Exactly. He also encouraged potential buyers to be cautious and make sure they were financially ready to buy a property.
Okay, so good advice there from Minister Lee.
For sure.
Now, before we wrap up, I'm curious to know what people are saying about all this on social media.
Yeah, I've been following the discussions online too.
So what are some of the key sentiments out there?
Well, a lot of young families are happy about the increased supply of BTO flats.
Right.
They see it as a positive step towards making homeownership more attainable. But there are also some concerns about the long-term value of HDB leases.
Right, because they're 99 years.
Exactly. And some people are worried about what will happen after that.
Right.
And then there are also questions about how the new family care scheme will impact singles who are applying for BTO flats.
Okay, so a lot of different viewpoints out there.
Yeah, it's definitely a hot topic.
Well, Damien, we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
So for our listeners out there, what are the key takeaways from this deep dive into Singapore's property market?
Well, I think the main takeaway is that we are seeing some signs of a cooling trend.
Right.
And this is due to a number of factors, including increased housing supply and global economic conditions.
Right.
For you, the listener, this could mean more choices and potentially less competition when you're ready to buy.
Absolutely.
The government is really focused on boosting supply, particularly for BTO flats and ECs.
Right.
And we're also going to see more flats coming onto the resale market as more units reach their MOP.
So, Damien, what's the big question that our listeners should be asking themselves right now?
Well, it's really about how all of these changes align with your own personal housing plans and your financial situation.
Right.
It's a good time to really assess your needs and your risk tolerance in this evolving market.
Absolutely. So much good information to consider.
There is.
Thanks for breaking it all down for us, Damien.
My pleasure, Serene.
And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in to Singapore Property Talk Law.
See you next time.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.